Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. Israel has eliminated the most senior Hezbollah official that it's eliminated yet, and it has eliminated several of them since Hezbollah launched what some have called a low-intensity war, but it seems pretty intense to me, on October 8th. Remember, the day after Hamas's onslaught on October 7th, Hezbollah began launching rockets and missiles the following day, and they have not stopped. And Israel has responded by eliminating well over 320 Hezbollah operatives, including a very big fish, folks, late yesterday. Now, we mentioned this as we were leaving our live stream yesterday. This was starting to come across the wire, but here's the details. His name is Taleb Abdullah, or his name was Taleb Abdullah, senior Hezbollah commander. Again, the most senior Hezbollah commander eliminated by Israel since hostilities began with Hezbollah on October 8th. Here are some more details. Let me mention also, before I break down who he was and why he was so important and why it's so important that he's now no longer with us. Hezbollah unleashed a massive, and we use that word a lot. This really was a massive barrage. You see the title here, Massive Rocket Barrage Unleashed, the title of this video. Folks, 215 Hezbollah projectiles launched, at least 215, launched at Israel today from Lebanon. We talked about yesterday, there were some 80 fired on Tuesday, just yesterday, June 11th. Today, Wednesday, June 12th, at last count, over 215 rockets, missiles, drones launched at Israel's north. And not only that, at points deeper, further into Israel than we had seen before. And I see Tiberias, folks, which is a pretty good-sized city, which sits right on the Sea of Galilee. I have stayed in Tiberias many, many times. And if you visit the Sea of Galilee, one of my favorite places in Israel and in the world, then there's a good chance you may have stayed at Tiberias. Well, Tiberias right now is under the gun and feeling the brunt of Hezbollah rockets. Again, Nazareth, they're reaching as deep as Nazareth now. This is in the Galilee now, folks. It's not just, which was bad enough, communities like Kiryat Shimona, Metula, communities closer to the Lebanon border. Again, they're now reaching deeper and deeper into Israel. And we know that Hezbollah has capabilities to really cover all of Israel, to strike essentially any location throughout Israel. There's some rockets that have come close to Haifa, drones that have come close to Haifa, Israel's third largest city, in recent days as well. So it goes without saying that there is a collision course right now between Israel and Hezbollah, and it will eventually, but it could this summer, in June, in July, break out into an all-out war. It's something no one wants to see, obviously, and that's the only reason that Israel has not embarked on a major ground invasion and all-out onslaught against Hezbollah yet. Israel's trying everything it can to avoid what we've called the Great Northern War. And you know it's coming. It's a question not of if, but when. Israel's tried to avoid that for a few reasons. Number one, first and foremost, because it would be a massively bloody, costly war for both sides, for Israel and for the nation of Lebanon, not just Hezbollah. Israeli leaders have made clear to Lebanese officials, hey, you harbor Hezbollah. Hezbollah has carved out a state within a state in southern Lebanon. Therefore, Lebanon, Lebanon's central government in Beirut, since you're allowing this, then we will hold all of Lebanon accountable. That's a key point there. And Israel, of course, northern Israel, but all of Israel would feel it if things break out with Hezbollah in a major way. As we've been discussing the past few minutes, we already see the extended range of those rockets and missiles. So Israel wants to avoid this, but a war is upon Israel, whether Israel wants it or not, and it's a two-front war. And Israel doesn't want to fight a two-front war. But again, it's upon Israel right now. And look, Gaza, you could say, obviously, massive, major IDF operation there in the past 8 months. Again, to the north, it is a second front, but it's not all the way open yet. I think low intensity is a bad term to use because it's intense when just last week you had 1,000 acres of Israeli land in the north scorched from Hezbollah rockets. Pretty intense. Pretty intense when you have 215 projectiles launched at the north today. Call me crazy. That's intense. Israelis are dying. People are dying on both sides. Look, Israeli civilians and soldiers have died as a result of these Hezbollah onslaughts. Hezbollah terrorists have died as well. So it's in low intensity, probably not the right term. It's a smaller scale war, folks. These are so the second front is open. There are daily exchanges between and deadly and lethal exchanges between Hezbollah and Israel. And we saw another one with the death of Taleb Abdullah. More on him in a minute and why he was such a big fish and why some are saying today that the death of Taleb Abdullah, and by the way, Israel, in a somewhat rare move, Israel claimed responsibility for his death. Many times the MO for the IDF is to not say anything, and we will neither confirm nor deny that we were behind this. But Israel said, yeah, it was us. We took him out. And folks, it was big. And I want to share with you why some are saying that it could be the prelude to that major Great Northern War. Maybe it truly is upon us. Some say this month, some say July, which is ironic in a sad way in that July will be the 18-year anniversary, hard to believe, of the last Israel-Hezbollah war. It's been called the Second Lebanon War, when Israel and Hezbollah last went toe-to-toe in a major way. But before we get into it, hey, quick reminder, if you have not subscribed to the Watchman News channel, we're coming to you practically every day, even on weekends, with up-to-date news and a unapologetically biblical perspective on current events, how it affects you no matter where you live around the world, and we've got viewers everywhere. But we'd love to have you here with us as watchmen and women on the wall every day as subscribers to our YouTube channel. Hey, we're fast approaching 1 million subscribers. Hard to believe, not for our glory, but for the glory of God and for shining light in the darkness. That's what we're trying to do, and we know the Lord will honor that. Honor God, he will honor you. Big lesson in life. So we're going to continue to do that because we want to get the message out there far and wide. Even though we're approaching 1 million subscribers, which is great because the more likes and subscribers, the more YouTube recommends this video, and people get a message of truth in times of what seem to be global and universal deceit, where good is called evil and evil is called good. Makes it even more important to get a message of biblical truth out there for such a time as this. And yet some 72% of our regular viewers are not subscribed. Folks, that's crazy. We'd love to have you here. Just make it official. Click that subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. And again, it gets the message out there for more and more people. Okay. Taleb Abdullah, who was he? Why was he such a big fish? Why is his demise so impactful for the immediate future of Israel, Lebanon, Hezbollah? Okay. Here it is. He was killed in an airstrike along with 3 other Hezbollah operatives in the town of Jawaya, some 9 miles north of the Israel-Lebanon border. He was the most senior member, as I mentioned a minute ago, the most senior member of Hezbollah killed in the 8 months of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. And again, Hezbollah, in their official statement, they released a statement announcing his death, said he was killed, he was martyred, in their words, on the road to Jerusalem. Shows you again, and we discussed this on yesterday's live stream. And folks, if you miss any of our live streams, any of our newscasts, you can check them out here in our archives under newscast. It's all right there. But Jerusalem is an obsession for jihadists everywhere, in particular the Iranian regime and that Iranian ring of fire, which Hezbollah is a full member of. Their ultimate goal is to seize Jerusalem. And look, the book of Zechariah is very clear about this. Zechariah 12, check it out for yourselves, where Zechariah says, Jerusalem, a day is coming when Jerusalem will become like a burdensome stone to all nations. Although all nations come against God's one and only city, they will all be cut to pieces. It will be like a cup of trembling. Folks, we're there. Jerusalem more and more is becoming the center of the world's attention, and clearly an obsession with Iran-backed jihadis like Hezbollah. That's why they mention Jerusalem and the road to Jerusalem in every single death announcement for Hezbollah terrorists. And those death announcements are becoming more frequent, by the way. But Taleb Abdullah, here's a little bit more. He was identified by Israeli security sources as Hezbollah's commander for the central region of the southern border strip, if you can follow that. Basically, the middle of the Israel-Lebanon border, he was in charge of that. Not to the west, not the east, the central part. And he was a commander. Hezbollah itself said he was a commander. Key point here, this is the Times of Israel. I'm just looking down because I'm reading straight off my phone. Some important facts here. I want to get them correct. Hezbollah rarely refers to its senior operatives killed by Israel as a commander, but in this case, he was such a big fish, they said, yes, he was a commander, and that's why you saw an onslaught today of 215 rockets, missiles, and drones at Israel. They went on to say that he was, let's see, the IDF did not comment specifically on who he was, but Hezbollah did, and here's a little bit more about him. Bear with me, folks. He was in charge also of essentially defending Beirut, the road from Israel to Beirut, Lebanon. He was one of the people in charge of cutting off that road, essentially. If Israel invades on the ground, which I believe it eventually will in Lebanon, it's going to have no other choice. Taleb Abdullah was in charge of blunting that invasion and blocking the road to Beirut, because you'd imagine Israel may drive all the way to Beirut. Who knows? Or it may be a more limited incursion, just focusing on southern Lebanon, which is Hezbollah's main power base. But remember, Hezbollah has a massive presence in the suburbs surrounding the Lebanese capital of Beirut. And it's a very good bet that Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, is hiding out there in the suburbs of Beirut in a bunker someplace. So some believe that the elimination of Taleb Abdullah and some other Hezbollah operatives who've been taken out recently could be a sign that Israel is clearing the way for a potential ground invasion. Here's our friends from Israel Radar, which is a great site on X, formerly known as Twitter. Israel Radar does some really good stuff, and he had some good observations today about it. Let's check out the ramifications of this. He's quoting some sources in the region who say the killing of the Hezbollah regional military chief signals that the IDF is, there you go, clearing the way for a potential assault on Beirut. One of his key roles, again, was to defend the path to Beirut in case of an Israeli invasion. And folks, wow, it harms, according to Israel Radar, they have great intelligence, folks. I don't know if these guys are former Israeli intel, but they're excellent. I encourage you to follow them on X, Israel Radar. It will harm Hezbollah's ability to counter an Israeli invasion, his death. He's also known, Taleb Abdullah, also known as Abu Taleb. Wow. So was this the beginning of something bigger? A major takeout there for Israel, a major blow to Hezbollah. Is it the beginning of something more? And look, it's kind of been in slow motion, right? Since October 8th, the world's focus, Israel's focus as well, its main focus has been on Gaza, wrapping things up there with a crushing defeat of Hamas, not a premature ceasefire, which the world they do want, led by the United States, sadly, the United States government, I should say, current administration, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But each month, we've seen the number of Hezbollah rockets launched increase to the point where last month in May, over 1,000 rockets, 1,000 were launched from southern Lebanon into Israel. And folks, look, it goes without saying that if Israel was not fighting a war on its southern front against Hamas, then Hezbollah would have been pounded on October 8th when they began firing rockets. This would have been blunted. This would have been done. Hezbollah would have been dealt with. The invasion would have happened, if not for Gaza. And if not for the Biden administration gnashing its teeth and trying to tie Israel's hands, not only from finishing the job in Gaza, not only from responding to Iran after that April 13th barrage from Iranian soil, but yes, from pounding Hezbollah. They'd rather Israel lay back and take a purely defensive posture. Guess what? That's what Israel did in the run-up to October 7th. Deterrence was the name of the game, right? And then October 7th happened. So Israel's not going to make that mistake with Hezbollah, especially when some 60,000 is the number we've been hearing, but sources on the ground tell me it's more. 60,000 Israelis evacuated from their homes in northern Israel. So Israel's not going to rest on its laurels and allow that to happen. Folks, these people have to return home. Israel is the size of the state of New Jersey. You can't have an entire region of a tiny nation like Israel emptied for months on end. It's been 8 months in the north where you have ghost towns near the Lebanon border and those beautiful Israeli communities there. And by the same token, along the Gaza border, you have still tens of thousands evacuated. So you can't have two entire regions which are big on agriculture. That's one of the driving economic engines in the south and the north. You can't have them basically not functional for the better part of a year and sustain a fully functioning economy. It's simply unsustainable. And for the morale of the people. Look, folks, I was, ironically enough, I mentioned Tiberias earlier. I was in Tiberias in February, staying on the Sea of Galilee, and in the hotel, the vast majority of people staying there were from Metula in northern Israel, living out of suitcases, unclear when they will return home. Folks, we're going to break down the latest with Hamas, the ceasefire there. I've got a question for you. Where do you think this goes with Hezbollah? We've got a highly educated audience here, and it's a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege to be able to share with you and be with you. Where do you think this is going? Is the death of Abu Taleb? Was this the precursor? Israel clearing the decks, so to speak, so Israel can drive forward and wow, all the way to Beirut? I mean, I haven't heard that discussed. What we have heard discussed is at least in southern Lebanon, as far as the Litani River, about 18 miles from the Israel-Lebanon border. But if you're driving to Beirut, it seems that Israel, and a big if Israel were to invade on the ground and if Israel were to go all the way to Beirut, look, it seems like they're trying to cut the head of the snake of Hezbollah. It seems like that's not just a limited incursion to ensure that Hezbollah is pushed back from the Israel-Lebanon border so that Hezbollah is no longer perched on that border and so that the people of the north can return home to their homes. Going to Beirut is deeper than that. What do you think? What is your take on this as you watch all this unfold? Is that great northern war coming? And by the way, the question answer session we're having here, a little mini one right now, we're going to do this more tomorrow. We've got our premium member live stream tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time here on the channel. Now, hey, anyone can subscribe and all are welcome, of course, but for our loyal viewers who are with us every single day who want more content, we've established premium membership. You can click join to find out more information here. And we offer a few things there. Number one, our podcast. It's called the Stackscast Weekly, the full podcast, the video version, great guests from Donald Trump to Hulk Hogan, Willie Robertson of Duck Dynasty, Naftali Bennett, former Israeli Prime Minister. We've got some great guests on the podcast, so you get the full video version of that. And of course, the premium live stream, which is Q&A, a little bit more intimate. And it's just me and you, and we're going back and forth. It's a lot more conversational. It's a lot of fun. So we're doing that tomorrow for our premium members at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And all are welcome for our live streams every day, by the way. So it doesn't change anything. But we thought premium membership would be a cool feature to offer to our regular viewers and loyal viewers of the channel. So be sure to check that out. Okay. The ceasefire here with Hamas. Look, on one hand, with everything enveloping the north, with the madness enveloping the north, with northern Israel quite literally on fire, you could see that Israel says, okay, we need to wrap this up to focus on the north, to focus on Hezbollah. But to Israel's credit, they have not done that. To the Israeli government's credit, they have not done that. They've said no. I mean, in the face of relentless world pressure, Israel has said no. We're going to stick to our guns and we're going to finish the job here in Gaza. And folks, look, as the world turns against Israel, more on the ceasefire in a second, the latest there, and China, Russia, and Turkey, Hamas wants them involved. We're going to break that down in a minute. Also, the UN today declaring Israel a war criminal, a nation guilty of war criminals, genocide. Someone just wrote in our comments, actually, I'm looking, Russian warships in Cuba. It's on. Yeah, we talked about this last week, actually. We told you this was coming. Russian warships conducting drills in the Atlantic Ocean near the U.S. coastline and docking in Cuba, 90 miles from the United States, from Florida. Cuban Missile Crisis Part 2 on the horizon. God forbid, but these are the stakes right now. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But real quick, as the world turns against Israel, from the UN to nations to administrations, folks, a lot of people are asking me, how can I help Israel? We've told you about our good friends at Magen David Adom. Folks, you want to help Israel, here you go. There's no better way to do it. Magen David Adom is Israel's emergency medical system. This is it. When there's a terror attack, there's a rocket barrage, Magen David Adom is the first to the scene. Look, this is 35,000 paramedics, EMTs, and first responders. When I'm in Israel, I see Magen David Adom ambulances everywhere. These are the first responders in Israel. They were on the scene on October 7th. They were the first to respond. Magen David Adom. They're in the north right now, aiding up there as fires rage and rockets fall. Magen David Adom at SaveLivesIsrael.com. I literally cannot think of a better way. They're our sponsor for the newscast today. We are proud and honored to partner with the brave men and women of Magen David Adom. Folks, some numbers for you. Since October 7th, 30 paramedics and EMTs have been killed in this war, and 17 ambulances have been destroyed. And folks, these are mostly volunteers at Magen David Adom. They're laying down their lives and they're giving up their lives to defend Israel, to help people, and they're volunteers. They're not getting paid for this. It's a largely donor-funded organization, yet it is Israel's emergency medical system. They answer every emergency medical call in Israel. Every emergency medical call, every ambulance they dispatch. This is it. These are Israel's first responders. You want to bless Israel? You want to fulfill that biblical mandate laid out in Genesis 12:3 to bless the people of Israel? Magen David Adom is the way to do it. Again, SaveLivesIsrael.com, SaveLivesIsrael.com. We are proud to partner with Magen David Adom. This is an organization, to say I believe in them is an understatement. They are the first line alongside the IDF in Israel. God bless them. They're doing God's work. Check them out, SaveLivesIsrael.com. Okay, with the ceasefire. Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, who's been pushing overtime this ceasefire, he's very disappointed, agitated, and annoyed with Hamas's response. Well, what did he expect? Hamas is coming back, and yesterday we reported this on the live stream. Hamas is saying, look, you know, perhaps we're open to listening, and maybe we're interested. And now Hamas is coming back with some amendments. Surprise, surprise. Here's one. Hamas is said to demand that China, Russia, and Turkey, talk about a rogues gallery, serve as guarantors for any hostage deal with Israel. And the demand was rejected by both the U.S. and Israel. Surprise, surprise. But look, Hamas is saying, okay, if the U.S. and Israel are the main purveyors of this ceasefire, they're the ones pushing it, they're the ones setting the terms largely, we want our allies, Russia, China, and Turkey involved. So very interesting. Folks, again, you see how things are lining up. There's really no gray areas here. Either you're on the side of Israel or you're on the side of evil. And I don't say that lightly. And we see the Gathering Storm Coalition shaping up. I've talked about it. I just mentioned a minute ago, Russia with warships in Cuba. The senior members of that Gathering Storm Coalition, Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, all aligned despite their varied religious backgrounds, ideologies. They're all aligned with the shared hatred for the West and for Israel. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. You might say, well, China doesn't hate Israel. They've got but at the same time, they've got a 25-year agreement with Iran, Israel's greatest enemy. You might say Russia doesn't hate Israel. At the same time, Russia has a rock solid military alliance with Israel's greatest enemy, the Iranian regime. Yes, Iran and North Korea openly despise and hate Israel. Russia and China are moving increasingly into the open hostilities direction. I'm not saying military yet in the case of Russia, but I believe there are prophetic implications there that we've talked about, laid out in the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39. But Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, Turkey clamoring to join that gathering storm coalition and be a senior member. And folks, they're just about there because Recep Tayyip Erdogan is the most viciously, openly anti-Semitic, anti-Israel leader in the world this side of the Iranian regime. Then you have junior partners like Venezuela and Cuba right here in the Western Hemisphere where I'm sitting. That's the gathering storm. It's active, it's alive, and it backs Hamas, it backs Hezbollah. It backs that Iranian ring of fire. And well, I'm not saying in every case military backing, training, logistics. In some cases, yes, but it could be just open diplomatic support, open shows of support, like Russia hosting Hamas delegations in Moscow shortly after October 7th. Like China, again, shoulder to shoulder with Iran with long-term treaties where China provides Iran with advanced weaponry in exchange for cheap oil and gas. So this coalition is shaped up, and it's no surprise that Hamas is calling on it to have its back. Now, is this ceasefire going to happen? Again, this administration in D.C. has been pushing it and pushing it and pushing it some more. Here's the bottom line. We've talked so much about it the past few weeks. Is it going to happen? Listen, if the current Israeli government, folks, agrees to a ceasefire, which leaves Hamas intact to fight another day, then that will be the end of this current Israeli government. There's no other way to say it. The people of Israel won't allow it. For Hamas, and look, and I said this yesterday, let me repeat it real quick. If you leave now, if you leave Gaza now, and Rafah is nearly under full Israeli control, by the way, despite the world's howling and wailing over it, Rafah, that last Hamas stronghold along the Egypt border, is largely under Israeli control. And Israeli officials are saying by the end of this month, it'll be fully under Israeli control, most likely. If Israel packs up its bags now and leaves Gaza, okay, Hamas seriously decimated, at least 50% of Hamas fighters killed, its terror infrastructure, much of it destroyed, the tunnel system, much of it in serious trouble, that massive terror tunnel system beneath Gaza. Much of that has been destroyed, but much of it still exists. It stretches hundreds of miles. It's a subterranean demonic lair under Gaza. I mean, folks, how demonic can you get when Hamas takes billions of dollars in international aid that flooded into Gaza? They take it and they spend it all not to feed people and to build up Gaza. Gaza's on the Mediterranean Sea. It could be a beautiful resort area. Instead, they took all that money and they built rockets and missiles and a network of tunnels beneath Gaza where they can pop up and kill people from, store weapons, and store hostages. It's just so demonic. And you know it's demonic because it's relentless. They are relentlessly evil. No matter how much they're smacked in the face, they keep coming back with more terror. Their sole rationale for being, this demonic death cult of modern-day Nazis known as Hamas, is to kill, murder, and maim Jews and Israelis with the goal of taking their agenda worldwide one day. That's their whole rationale for being. It doesn't get any more evil and demonic, as we saw, obviously, on October 7th with the barbarity there. So that's what Israel's up against. And if Israel agrees to a premature ceasefire and leaves now, Hamas, hey, certainly decimated, certainly in big, big trouble. In the short term, Hamas wouldn't have the capability to carry out another October 7th, although they've made very clear that's what they intend. Hamas leaders have been captured on video, interviews in Middle East media outlets that they've given, and we've showed these on my nightly show, Stakelbeck Tonight, which, by the way, if you love the Watchman live stream, here on YouTube. You can check out our nightly show on television. It's called Stakelbeck Tonight. We just launched in late March. Every Monday through Friday, folks, every weeknight, Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on TBN. We go in depth. Some have said, where's the footage? Where's the maps? Where's the B-roll on the live streams? Well, folks, this is a live stream. It doesn't have the big production values. It's kind of down and dirty. But we're coming to you with the information, and I think that's what you're more concerned about, the content. But on our nightly TV show, yeah, all the bells and whistles you're looking for, beautiful graphics, maps, they're all there on Stakelbeck Tonight. It's every night in a beautiful studio that's behind me right now in Dallas, Fort Worth, our TBN headquarters here, our global headquarters, every night on TBN, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time with a re-air at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. One last note, I promise. We have a second YouTube channel now, and it's the Stakelbeck Tonight YouTube channel. Head over there, folks, and subscribe at Stakelbeck Tonight. It's at Stakelbeck Tonight. If you missed the nightly show, we've got great clips from Stakelbeck Tonight on our second YouTube channel. Yeah, we've got two now, two YouTube channels, a podcast, a nightly show. God is keeping us busy for such a time as this. But at Stakelbeck Tonight is our second YouTube channel with clips from the nightly show. Take a peek, see if you like it, and then tune into the show every night. But we've been showing you on Stakelbeck Tonight all of these numbers broken down and the logistics of Hamas and what's left. And the bottom line is that, and those video clips that I mentioned of Hamas leaders boasting about their intention to carry out another October 7th. And the bottom line is, folks, I don't think Hamas can pull that off right now. It's been beaten so badly. But if nothing else, Hamas has shown that it's very patient. And again, I use the word relentless. They're relentlessly evil. And sometimes relentless can be a compliment. I don't want to pay them a compliment. That's not what I'm doing. If you relentlessly pursue your goal to be the greatest athlete, whatever, that can be a good thing, right? As long as it's not ruthless pursuit. If it's relentless, you're working hard, you're dedicated, good thing. Or you're relentlessly pursuing God, a relationship with Jesus, good thing. They are relentlessly pursuing evil and death and murder. So you just know, although they're down now, they're not down for the count. And eventually, Hamas would build itself back up to the point where, yes, it could carry out major attacks against Israel. Their rocket launches have largely disappeared. Again, Israel has just done a great job in walloping Hamas across the board, but they're down, yet not out. Remember ISIS, folks, a cautionary tale. Donald Trump kept his word. You may like him, you may not like him, but President Trump kept his word during his term, and he crushed ISIS, in Syria and Iraq. That ISIS caliphate was smashed, and now ISIS is rearing its head again in Afghanistan because President Biden, another president, kept his word. He withdrew U.S. troops from Afghanistan, boy did he, in a chaotic mess, a national global embarrassment for the United States. And now ISIS once again is using Afghanistan as a launching pad. If you have a premature, messy withdrawal from Gaza, premature ceasefire that favors Hamas, I'm sad to say, folks, I think the same thing would happen eventually. So Israel can't do that. But in the meantime, look, the international pressure grows and continues. And the UN today, one last quick thought to leave you with. Quick twisted thought from the UN. Let's see. 1 second, pardon me. Here it is. The UN, these UN reports released today accuse Israel of extermination and crimes against humanity in Gaza. There you have it. Did you expect anything less from the UN? But folks, again, if you're a supporter of Israel, if you're a follower of Jesus, living in these prophetic times, these Bible times, now more than ever. That's why I talked about Magen David Adom. Again, SaveLivesIsrael.com, our good friends. Now more than ever, Israel needs a few good friends and to stand up and be counted. It's easy to stand with Israel when the time is going good and there's not marches in the streets of your town against Israel. But right now, you want to stand for Israel openly and boldly, you're going to hear it. You're going to get pushback. Throughout our chats here, we've got trolls chiming in on the chat. It goes with the territory. It gets intense. but man, is it worth it. Because I believe Israel is the apple of God's eye. I believe that because God himself says so. And I also believe that Israel has returned to its ancient and ancestral homeland, never to be uprooted again. And God is getting ready to show himself, folks, in a way that he hasn't, in a very public way, in 2,000 years. You're in prophetic times. So act accordingly, meaning faith, family, freedom, the 3 F's that we need to lean on. Number 1, pray without ceasing, faith. And I say it all the time, hey, when the winds are roaring, the waves are crashing against the boat, if Jesus is in the boat with you, you'll be just fine. So keep that in mind as we go. Until tomorrow, remember, folks, premium live stream for our premium members, 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Check it out. Bring your questions. It's going to be a lot of Q&A and a lot of prophecy tomorrow. So don't miss that premium membership. Again, you can just click join and check out more. Until then, thanks for joining us today. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.